Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Hashim Kumar. President Trump's special envoy, Keith Kellogg, is in Kyiv a day after the US and Russia opened talks on Moscow's war on Ukraine. He said he understood Ukraine's need for security guarantees, but had earlier made clear Europeans would not be allowed to take part in the negotiations. Earlier, the US president said he was more confident of a peace deal in Ukraine following the first high-level US-Russia talks since Moscow's full-scale invasion, which took place in Riyadh. But in a wide-ranging news conference at Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Trump appeared to blame Ukraine for starting the war, saying it, quote, could have been settled very easily, and that he was disappointed by Ukrainian complaints that Kyiv had been excluded from the talks. Well, to unpick all of this, we're joined by Mr. Rostyslav Khotin. He's Senior Editor at RFE RL. Mr. Khotin, welcome back to TVP World. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
So give us your overview of what you see happening in terms of the peace process for Ukraine.
It seems that the Americans have launched the direct talks and the direct channel of communication with Moscow. They are to reestablish, not to the full-fledged level, but nevertheless they are to reestablish relations with Russia. It angers Ukraine. It disappoints Europeans. Actually, the talks in Saudi Arabia happened and yesterday and today European Union has approved at least the 16th package of sanctions against Russia. So there are a lot of things. Meanwhile, Americans want to involve Ukraine in a big way because the special envoy for Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg, is in Kyiv visiting. He's there for 3 days. It's a 3-day visit, and Ukraine has been expecting him very much. But it seems that Kellogg will not bring any kind of signals from Washington. As he put it, he would rather sit and listen to Ukrainian leadership. He is to meet President Zelensky, other Ukrainian officials. Zelensky also suggested for Keith Kellogg to visit front lines and was ready to go with him to the front lines. He'd been already a long time ago during the war to the Kharkiv region in Izium, which was liberated by Ukrainian troops. So he's, as he put it, to sit and listen. But nevertheless, Ukrainians want to hear what he's to tell them. Especially, they want clarification from Keith Kellogg's statement in Munich during security conference that Europeans will not be present at the negotiating table. Ukrainians do want to be present themselves. They don't think that future peace deal should be decided solely by the US and Russia. Ukrainians also want to take part. Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. That's the principle of Kyiv leadership. Also, Ukraine wants Europeans to have a voice and to sit around the table as well. And Europeans insist that future of European security and Ukraine's security should not be decided without European participation.
Understood. Now, a number of representatives of the US side have said, well, of course, Ukraine will be involved, but at this stage, it only needs be us and Russia, simply because having too many voices at the table is simply going to complicate it. And really all we're trying to do is calculate the contours of the discussions to follow. What do you say to those statements?
Probably at this stage, the Americans decided to open separate channels of communication, the new administration, because Ukrainian American channels of communication were quite busy during Biden era. But nevertheless, now the Trump administration has decided probably to open two channels at the same time simultaneously, one with Kyiv. That's why Keith Kellogg is in visiting Ukrainian capital, and another one with Russia. That's why there were talks in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia between Russian and American officials. So now there are two tracks at the same time, and there will be convergence of them soon. Probably after meeting between Trump and Putin, or after yet another phone call or meeting between Trump and Zelensky. We will see, but so far there are two tracks separate, and at a later stage, when there will be kind of possibly conditions for peace talks discussed, there might be a kind of triangle or four-side talks involving the US, Ukraine, Russia, and possibly Europe in some way or another.
Understood. So as you see it, it is something that will happen. It's just a little bit further down the road. I assume, therefore, you're suggesting that first we need a ceasefire, and then the peace talks will commence. Now, whatever happens with the peace talks, Ukraine, of course, has asked for, ironclad security guarantees, and that suggests either membership to NATO or a peacekeeping force. Your comments?
It's difficult to say what kind of, because different things have been announced from various sources about security guarantees. Of course, as Ukrainian leadership puts it, the biggest and the best security guarantee is NATO membership. But there is also understanding in Kyiv that at the moment NATO membership is off agenda. It's unreal at this stage. Maybe later, maybe it will take years. We don't know. But so far, realistically, NATO membership, as head of Pentagon said, is an unrealistic expectation. Secondly, of course, Zelensky said also that possibly peace talks, security guarantees could include enormous military aid to Ukraine, also supply of missiles, Ukrainian military complex, getting full steam, working hard to produce a lot of arms and ammunition for Ukrainian armed forces, Western military support, possibly deployment of Western troops to Ukraine. Of course, Ukrainians want to see Western troops in Ukraine, but so far it seems that the United States are not prepared to send boots on the ground to Ukraine. But if this mission will be happening, it probably rather realistically we would see French or British or Swedish or other European countries' troops in Ukraine, not American troops, of course.
Not American, nor Polish. The Polish Prime Minister has said that Polish troops will not be going to Ukraine as peacekeepers. However, Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, said that countries which are also members of NATO who come in under a, quote, false flag or even their national flag are simply unacceptable to Russia. So you mentioned the UK. Presumably, France and other countries may also join in the effort to send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine. What do you make of that statement by Sergei Lavrov?
Yes, Russia insists that it will be contrary to its national interests and security to see Western troops in Ukraine. That's what he said. He has said. Also, we heard a slight shift in statements coming from President Emmanuel Macron of France. Earlier, when he first suggested this idea, it was like sending troops to Ukraine en masse in big numbers. Now it's kind of he insists that there might be a limited contingent far away from front lines, very far away from front lines, probably with kind of secondary mission, training mission, just as a kind of moral boost for Ukrainians' spirit. And also the latest from Britain, what we hear is that rather instead of boots, although the British Army is ready to move in if there will be order, but rather there will be kind of patrolling of Ukrainian skies by British Typhoon Eurofighters, kind of to secure Ukrainian sky, but again, not close to the battlefield areas, but rather patrolling Ukrainian skies in term to boost Ukrainian security from the air.
Understood. Now, another issue that is causing some concern is the demand by Russia, and now it seems by the US, for Ukraine to hold new presidential elections before any peace deal can be finalized. What do you make of that?
Difficult for me to say, but what we hear, there is an American line that Ukraine has to hold a presidential election, and Keith Kellogg in Munich said, and before even said that it will kind of it will show the strength, the might of Ukrainian democracy if Ukraine to hold election. There were statements from Ukrainian officials explaining that there is no possibility to hold election while martial law is activated in Ukraine, and this law is announced and prolonged constantly by Ukrainian parliament from time to time. Zelensky said he's not afraid of election, but it's impossible to hold election now for various reasons. One reason is, which was announced, that it's difficult to organize voting for Ukrainian soldiers, especially on the front lines, difficult to how internally displaced persons will vote, and there are millions of such people in Ukraine. Also, how several millions of Ukrainian refugees in Europe will vote. It's also difficult to predict. So there are different complications to this idea to hold the election, but also this idea, let's be honest, actually discussed in Ukraine as well, and between Ukraine and America, and there are signals from the United States that Ukraine should have election. We'll see, but so far it's very hotly debated issue both in Ukraine and abroad.
Why do you think Russia is insisting on it? Do you think they have some ulterior motive, or are they just very, very concerned about democracy in Ukraine?
No, not about democracy, not Russia. We can't compare, of course, Ukrainian and Russian election. The style of this election, the atmosphere, the transparency, the fairness of this election is uncomparable. Ukraine is a democratic country and held democratic elections, and Zelensky was elected.
So why is Russia pushing for it?
Russia insists that, as Putin said several times recently, that in his words, Zelensky is illegitimate because he already is in office more than 5 years, which are allocated by Ukrainian constitution 5 years presidential term. But again, according to the constitution, Ukraine should not hold presidential election during martial law. And Russia, of course, maybe wants Ukraine to be involved into internal political infighting. We don't know, to use it for its end, to use it to its advantage. But so far, as at this moment, Ukraine is not to hold election. There is no decision because of martial law. And now this martial law was extended by the Ukrainian parliament, Verkhovna Rada, till the 9th of May 2025.
Understood. Well, thank you very much indeed, sir, Mr. Khotin, for joining us and sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.